We're excited to have Scott Gire back here with us. He is an HR service area manager with Oasis Paychex. You've seen him here with us before. And when we were looking at, really continuing this series, we really went after, kind of a recovery mode. So how do we continue to get businesses back on their feet and strong? And everything in HR, as Scott's going to point out, has just been a moving target this year. So I was so excited when I saw this pop up as a potential presentation, and he has continued to follow this. And we were just chit-chatting about some potential consequences for HR as people come back to the office and what that looks like. So I am going to throw out that if you have additional questions as we go along, please drop them down in the chat and I will get those to Scott and he will try to answer as many as he can. He has reserved time at the end of the presentation to address any of these. So Scott, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you and you can get us started. Thanks for being here today.
Sounds great. Thank you. Let me get my screen up here. All right. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we're good to go.
Perfect. Okay. Well, good morning and welcome to the topic today is rebuilding and supporting your workforce as the pandemic continues. Hopefully we can stop talking about this at some point, but for now, here we are. My name is Scott Gire, as Christina mentioned, and I do work for Oasis, a Paychex company. For those of you who are from the Des Moines area, our company originated as Merit Resources. And then following a few mergers and acquisitions of the past few years, we've now become a part of Paychex Incorporated. So just for, again, some additional insight, Paychex is a provider of human resource, payroll, and benefits outsourcing services for small to mid-sized businesses. We're headquartered in Rochester, New York, and our company has more than 100 offices across the country and in Europe with 16,000 employees. So significantly different than our days as Merit Resources, but a lot of good things have come, and you'll see that we've, as Paychex, being the large company they are, they've done some research, and I'm going to provide a little bit of that to you today. So the next slide is, hold on one second here. Just a disclaimer, this information shouldn't be considered legal advice. I'm not an attorney. So if you have a unique situation that you feel would need legal counsel, please look into that. So our agenda today, we'll talk a little bit about the current operating environment as we know it today, talk about some of the twists and turns that have occurred over the last 12 months, talk about how you can support your workforce. So this is more, I guess, maybe down the road of the warm and fuzzy things that you can do to motivate and retain employees. Plus some regulatory things as well. And then we'll talk at the end, just some parting thoughts and questions if that may come up along the way. So in one way or another, I mean, you made it this far through the COVID pandemic. We're all here. So somehow we've come out on the other side looking pretty good. You may have shut down your place of business and moved employees to work remotely. You may have been forced to conduct layoffs and furloughs, unfortunately. You potentially secured temporary government funding to assist your business amidst the chaos, and you may have reopened your doors and complied with stringent health and safety regulations to help employees and customers remain safe. Do any of these scenarios sound familiar? You could have had a combination of all of them, or you could have at one point or another probably experienced any of them. So we are a year into the pandemic. There's been a resurgence after resurgence of the virus with at this point, no real end in sight. And even with the vaccine being distributed, the challenges definitely continue. So we don't know how long this will go on. And in the last week, we've heard President Biden and Dr. Fauci talking about, hopefully we'll have a normal Christmas. I wanted to scream when I heard that. And then I've read over the weekend a Wall Street Journal op-ed that said, there's enough people that have had the virus that didn't know they had it, that we will maybe reach herd immunity by the end of April. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. So I guess we can say somewhere between May 1st and the end of December, things might look up. I also heard this morning that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is now being approved for rapid distribution. So there are some good things out there, but meanwhile, while we wait for everybody to get the vaccine, and we'll work through things as we go. But definitely business owners and managers needed to prepare for a marathon, whether we knew it or not. This was not a sprint. So Paychex research has shown that that these were the priorities for small businesses in late 2020. And for many, these priorities remain in place. So the top 5 priorities that were gathered from a study that was done were managing business as usual was a priority, maintaining customer relationships, huge, reducing expenses based on business change, reopening the business if there was a closure, revising a sales and marketing approach. Some people had to kind of reinvent themselves. So as businesses were reopened, business owners shared that they also were worried about too few customers returning, customers maybe being uncomfortable coming into the business or just getting the word out that they're open for business. And through the resurgence of the virus, they've needed to go through everything they had done to survive over and over again. Some state and local government entities are rolling back or rescinding the reopenings due to ongoing COVID-19 spread and spikes in positive cases. Some rollbacks were industry specific. We saw that in Iowa with restaurants and bars. Some are broader and include setting lower limits on mass gatherings, which we continue to hear about, reinstituting telework mandates, and the list goes on. But we know all this, right? I mean, this is not new. But what I'm here to share with you today is that the key to achieving most of these priorities is having motivated employees. You can't do this by yourself. You need a team of people to get behind your initiatives and make this all work. So whether working remotely or in the office, your team needs your attention. And that's, I'm talking more from a leadership perspective, but if your colleagues need your support as well. So if you're just working side by side with someone, certainly keep in mind and keep in touch those folks. For those with a fully or partially remote workforce, what most concerns you about this continuing? Let's think about that for a minute and just, kind of have an answer in mind. You may quickly have an answer. It's like, oh, I know exactly what my concern is. Others might have to think for a second, but is it, productivity and efficiency of the workforce that's not in the office with direct supervision? Is it safety liabilities with working from home? I'm not sure exactly what that would be. Hopefully people live in a safe environment. Retention, what does it really even look like to hire someone in this environment? That's a whole different twist to things. Engagement, big challenge. Breaking down relationships with the team or the manager, or it could just be all of those or none of them. It could be something unique that isn't even mentioned in that list. So none of this is surprising given the volume of pressures employees are under today and the vast difference in work today versus a year ago. So what is important is recognize these concerns, taking them seriously and solving for them. So employees face relentless competing stress factors. This has not been fun for anyone. Uncertainty is the name of the game right now. How could it not be? I mean, like I already described, we don't know when this will end. Nobody expected it to go this long. So change is hard to comply with certain state and local laws, face covering requirements. Nobody likes that. Distancing and many other safety measures. Unemployment insurance claims. The number of unemployed Americans is currently over 10 million. Others may be struggling with a spouse or partner who may have lost a job or concerned over their own job security. Telework, work from home, also a change. Fewer personal interactions with individuals, which for some people is a real challenge. Having to be more regimented in your schedule, having the right equipment, it's a big deal. And definitely not for everyone or every business. I was telling Christina this morning that we allowed people back into our office in December. So, 10 months later, after we went home. And the only reason really we did it was by volunteer, was because some people were really struggling working from home and maybe didn't have the right setup or just needed a little more interaction with people. So very strict safety guidelines are in place, but we do have a few people back in our office, very few. Economic insecurity, people are in fear of losing their jobs or being financially impacted due to business closures. And then the school situation. That was just every day was a new adventure when it came to childcare and schools, whether they were opening, whether it was hybrid, whether they were working from home or in school at home. And that was probably the biggest challenge I faced with my remote team was how to, work the schedule around all that, but we did it. And it was not a one size fits all. So it had to be looked at individually and see what made sense for that particular school and that particular state and those parents. So the black cloud of the pandemic is a lot to handle. So even those of us who consider ourselves introverts, we've also reached our limits. I mean, there's only so much staying at home that you can deal with on a regular basis. So the impact of COVID-19 has resulted in prolonged social distancing, remote work, job losses, significant deaths, and an economic recession, all of which have the potential to deeply affect the mental health of employees. So to understand this more, Paychex surveyed more than 1,000 employees, and the findings included that 51% said their mental health had worsened during the pandemic. Not surprising. I'm actually more surprised probably that wasn't a little higher maybe. The survey results reflected that on-site workers are more stressed than remote workers. Again, probably not a surprise, but interesting statistics when you put it to numbers. 1/3 said they were having difficulty at their typical level of productivity. And the respondents believe that the most helpful ways employers can support their mental health is by working fully remotely and encourage work-life balance and allow for flexible schedules. Now, I say all this knowing that not every business has the opportunity to just have their workforce work remotely, which is also part of the challenge in working through this is figuring out what works for you and your business. But mental health is extremely important for employees to address year-round, but especially at this point in time. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the right spot here. The pandemic may be impacting employee productivity levels due to increased mental illness, which we talked about, which, things like a lack of exercise, excessive eating habits, et cetera. When you sit at home all the time, those sort of things sort of become a real challenge. Attendance can be impacted due to childcare and caregiving responsibilities. It can also be impacted just due to the fact that you're depressed and you don't feel like working. It's a dark time for many people. New and expanding federal, state, and local laws, increasing the complexity of compliance for businesses, which seems to be lessening a little bit here in Iowa. This all varies by state, and my team works across numerous states. So we get daily updates for compliance bulletins, and I'm telling you, it's crazy. Every state does something different, and it's hard to keep track of. As an employer, now more than ever, employees need your support. Like you, they are under unprecedented stress and are navigating new territory. So now that we've painted the picture and had time to reflect on current state and where we've been, I'll share some ways that we suggest to help you retain and motivate the workforce during the challenging times and just show support. It's time to dig in and get in touch with that warm and fuzzy side and see empathy. Empathy is a key piece of supporting and motivating the workforce. So another piece of the research that was done, the pandemic has altered how managers and employees interact, both remotely and in the office. And while some employees perceive they are having less communication with their managers, many are also reporting that their relationship have improved over time. And to gain a pulse on how relations are changing, in our survey of more than 1,000 employees that Paychex did, we found out that 7 is the ideal number of days in a month that employees want to meet with their manager. 7 different times in 1 month, an actual meeting time with their manager. The best support managers can provide is to offer encouragement. 48% said they need encouragement and make themselves consistently available. And that's a theme, 38%. That availability theme comes up in any of the research that I've run across, they need leaders to be available. And it's more challenging when you're working, especially in our situation when we're all working remotely. In an office situation, there's just so many distractions. It's challenging there too. So, but then many managers said employee connectedness was their top priority, which is great. For those working or making communication a priority, employees were more likely to report higher levels of morale and productivity. So what are some of the best practices business owners can consider deploying to support their teams? And maybe some of you have done these things already, and you can share your own thoughts with the group later. So focusing on the well-being of the team, regular check-ins with the team members. Again, just checking in, see how they're doing. Utilize technology to enhance connections with employees. I mean, many of you are using technology such as Zoom. We use Webex in our office. I text with my team a lot. Understanding the need for team members to focus on themselves and consider and allow flexible schedules. Again, this will vary by industry. It will vary by, your business. But I will tell you that even though, when I look at Paychex, for example, if somebody would have said to us 2 years ago, oh, one of these days you're going to have a 100% remote, work from home staff, they would have been laughed out of the room. But when it became necessary, it worked, and we made it happen. So even though it may not seem like a flexible schedule or adjusting some of those typical normal things that we've always done is possible, we find that it really is if you break it down and really think it through. Encourage rest breaks, regular exercise and nutritional meals, support programs that can encourage healthy practices. Look into discounts on gyms, bring in experts to talk about various health practices and wellness ideas. If you are an organization that offers an employee assistance program, this is a really helpful benefit, and it's very underutilized. We offer this to our clients, and I will tell you, it is extremely underutilized. And there's a lot of opportunity and benefits to, calling in and accessing the resources, whether it's financial guidance or assistance, legal consultation, coaching and counseling. And, during this time, maybe that's where the need is. But educate the employees on the benefit if you aren't already doing that, and really encourage the use. Demonstrate the value of workers. Employees are experiencing, as we mentioned, economic insecurity, concerns about job stability, and impacts to their families. Tell employees how much you appreciate them and share that they are valued. Say thank you. Again, this stuff is pretty easy to do. Well, I should say, it sounds easy to do. It's easier for some than others. Highlight employee accomplishments and kudos and share with other team members. And then always explain the why when decisions or changes are being made in the work environment. And even if you don't have the answer, just say so. Leaving people wondering is just not a good place to be. Support the use of PTO. I know this sounds a little strange because it's like, well, where would I go in the middle of a pandemic? But even taking days off to just get away from work and encourage people to just take a break is a good thing. And there may be even a need to take a look at your PTO plans and readjust any caps or carryovers, because people have probably not been taking the PTO they were used to. And it's, again, another kind of a negative if they see their balances are dwindling or they're losing time that they weren't able to take, because how could they, kind of a thing. So just another thing to maybe look at. Offer financial support for dependent care. This one probably is lesser now that schools are back, especially in Iowa, but it was something that came up a lot with clients we work with as just an extra benefit that they had never offered before. So certainly, again, a little bit thinking out of the box with some new ways of supporting employees. Health and safety protocols. That kind of goes without saying, but that's a big deal, especially if you are going to encourage people to come back to the office. They have to know they're going into a safe environment. Or if you, you're hiring someone, they would want to know that where they're going to work this is taken seriously for many people. So PPE, face coverings, desk spacing, social distancing, all the stuff we hear about all the time, is very important. And that, all these things are just as important for in-office workers as they are for remote. And there may be different levels of need based on the situation. Whoops. So we talk about, sorry, I lost my place on my slides here. So what are some of the best practices business owners can consider deploying to support their team? And maybe some of you have done these things already, like I mentioned. Hold on. Sorry, I got totally out of place. What can you personally do as a leader to motivate and retain your employees? One would be to demonstrate your commitment and be available. Again, that availability theme comes up again. Employees are generally more motivated when they feel a strong sense of support from their leader and they know where the business is heading. In these circumstances, it's important to place value in your employees and believe that they will help your business move forward and achieve its goals. Helps them to understand how they can best contribute every day and let them know what is expected of them. It may be different now than it was a year ago or 6 months ago. So letting them know what's expected of them is key. Stay in tune with what's happening in their personal lives. And I really, again, this is more related to really for the remote workforce, but, even within the office. And again, even if you're not a supervisor, you can look out for your fellow coworkers and really make a big difference. The second one is to take time to solicit feedback from employees and then act on their ideas. By taking time to listen, either in person or via surveys or feedback sessions, you can demonstrate that the employee opinions and ideas do matter and they can be worth implementing. Again, employees feel motivated when they believe they're more of a part of the solution and what the company is doing, rather than feeling like they're just getting paid for what's in the job description, especially during times like this. The third one is over-communicate. Even when you don't know the answers, as I mentioned before, this is crucial. People need to know what's going on. And even if you don't know what's going on, and there were many times I can say with our own organization, we did not have the answers. And, we're working with clients and they're asking us questions and we're like, we don't know, which is not an easy thing to say, but being upfront about it and just, letting them know what we do know, what we're working on and where, what next steps are coming is a big deal. Transparency into challenges being faced, plans for the future, even mistakes that maybe were made will go a long way and give the employees a sense of belonging and feeling like a part of the team. The fourth tip is to offer praise and for specific achievements and let employees know how their individual and team efforts contribute to the growth of the company. The more they understand how meaningful their jobs are and how they fit into the puzzle, the more motivated they'll likely be to keep up the work. So encourage kudos amongst team members. This isn't all, like I've said, manager to employee. It's like employee to employee, manager to manager. I mean, everybody needs some encouragement from time to time, especially when, like I said, it seems like this is never going away. And one thing I just want to mention, next Friday, March 5th is National Employee Appreciation Day. If you were not familiar with that, and if you've never celebrated it before, this might be the great year to start. We started it last year. We do a week's worth of events from Monday through Friday. But certainly the one day is actually recognized as National Employee Appreciation Day. And you can find information online related to it. So that was number 5. So this went really fast. So hopefully we'll have some conversation here at the end, but celebrate like never before, which I flew by. Take time to formally celebrate the completion of a major project or an initiative. Commend employees on their job milestones. Highlight promotions of individuals who've come up through the ranks, and all these activities reinforce the sense that we're all in this together. And this is even more important now, again, than ever. It doesn't even have to be work related. Recognize birthdays and anniversaries. If you're working remotely, send cards or gifts to your team members periodically. Play virtual games. You use your webcams. It seems like, gosh, we should be working instead of playing a game. But when you think about, and I know this just from working at home over the last year, you don't have the interruptions that you did when you were at home or working in the office. So spending a little time on a virtual game or calling a team member and just talking about what's going on with them, how their weekend was, maybe they did take a weekend vacation of sorts, and catching up on things is worth it. I mean, it's worth taking the time to do that. So nothing about the last year has been easy or predictable. And to make matters worse, we entered 2021 with a false sense of new beginnings. And while we look forward to brighter days, we'll continue to laugh about those moments when a colleague forgets that the webcam is on and does something funny or embarrassing. I've done that. You're on mute will remain part of every web meeting, and pets and kids will be an extension of our team. And all that's been, it's like, and we've embraced it. It's just part of what we do now. And it's really cool to see. What we're going to run into now as an organization is that a lot of people are finding it to be really cool and they love working from home. So I have a feeling we're going to, maybe my next presentation will be about how do you convince people who have come to love working from home to come back into the office, even if it is safe and everything's beyond in the past. So anyway, I know all this warm, fuzzy stuff may not be comfortable for everyone, but trust me, as a leader, it is time to take yourself off mute, step outside the comfort zone, maybe grab some hand sanitizer and make a positive difference to your team. These little things make a huge difference and will go a long way toward building morale and moving your organization forward. So, parting thoughts, anybody have any questions about anything? I can share examples of anything we have that I've talked about and go in more detail. I don't consider myself to know everything, but we work with so many organizations that we have the luxury of knowing what other organizations do as well. So if anybody has questions, please, you can chat them or
yeah.
Do we have any already, Christina? Okay.
Since we have some time, if you guys would like to come on the screen or feel comfortable, please do, and feel free to ask a question directly. Otherwise, if you'd like to just leave your camera off and type in the chat box, I will get those to Scott. Scott, do you want to touch, just as we started, Scott and I were kind of chit-chatting before this, and there is the thought of now kids are back in school and some companies are looking at requiring, employees to start coming back pre-vaccination. Do you want to share any thoughts on that? Just kind of what we talked about. Obviously, there's different thoughts on it, but yes, it is okay to do that. And like I said, we took the angle of just taking volunteers because we knew there were people who were struggling at home. But you can certainly require team members to come back to the office. You'll want to review Iowa Public Health specifics and requirements as far as what that needs to look like, along with the CDC guidelines, when it comes down to, facial covering, social distancing, hand sanitizing, all those things. We have an attestation that we have to do every morning saying that, we're healthy, we have no symptoms of, all that kind of stuff every single day. And I don't go to the office yet, but those who do go in and answer that every single day. Any vendors that come in have to do the same thing. So there's a whole list of protocols you would want to put in place to do it, because you definitely, if you're going to mandate it or expect people to come to work, they really need to know you're not going to have the results you're looking for if you're not making it as safe as possible for them. But yes, you can absolutely do it. Any other questions? Comments on here. Does anybody have any free ideas? Does anybody have any ideas of free resources for staff? We're compiling a list and looking for additional resources for our EAP.
Do you have an EAP I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yes, we do have an EAP. We're looking for any free additional resources to, like, in addition to our EAP, that we can just get in front of staff.
Gotcha.
So if anyone has any that they've come across, go ahead and put them in the chat for us.
Yeah. No, great question. Yeah. Let's learn from each other. That's the best way to do it.
And then there was just a comment about the mental health piece too. And I would agree with that. Working with small business owners, the mental health piece has just been critical this year. And, that transfers down to the staff. I say our kids can read our emotions, our pets can, and your staff can too. So Bernie dropped some great things in the chat about that too.
Hey, Scott, to that question with the free resources, this is Matt Nutzman, by the way. I'm going to link our COVID center that Paychex has, which is free, and it does have all kinds of resources related to COVID. So I will go find that link and I'll put it out there in the chat.
Very good. Yeah, I will say, just for some additional context, my group of HR professionals work with our senior living vertical market. So we were seeing a whole different, and this is why I say it's so different for every business, because in senior living, safety was obviously number one. They were not furloughing or laying people off because their whole focus was keeping residents safe, employees safe. If there was a COVID positive, then, that was a whole other thing. And it was really interesting to see that side of the business had those concerns and issues and challenges. And then the small, mid-sized businesses were, let's say, speaking generalities, we're dealing with like reduction in force, layoffs, figuring out what do we do next. So completely different. And that's why it's so hard to really know, there's no like one size fits all. This isn't a cookie cutter answer. It's like looking at each individual business, figuring out what makes the most sense. The same thing with working with employees. I'm not one that requires a lot of recognition, although I don't mind if I get it. But there are a lot of people who do need that, and they need to know that someone cares, that they're not just sitting there struggling to get through the day and do their best, that nobody's noticing. And so it is different, and it really does take a different approach to things than we've historically needed to do, probably. Not to say that these things aren't good to do all the time, they are, but it's just a different intensity right now with it.
Does anybody I'm just going to throw this out there because I love hearing feedback. Does anybody have anything that they've done with their employees that has worked really well? I feel like a year in, we're hearing a lot of people are running out of ideas to show that appreciation, recognition. Does anybody have anything that really went over well, or just even, Scott, what you guys are looking at doing for Employee Appreciation Day? I think that's great. You threw that out there. Anybody have any feedback?
Yeah, this is Bernie Stone, Bunker Labs. I'd like to change sort of the timeline of what you just said in terms of a reaction to putting something in place that is always there, that allows you to your business or your organization to be more resilient. Many people know that I was 20 years Army. If you're reacting to something, then you're not in control of it, and you've lost it's called the OODA loop, your decision loop. I would recommend that you put those things in place, whether that is, mental health or resiliency programs or things within the leadership, so that they are empowered to weather anything, whether it's derechos or pandemics or, God forbid, workplace shooting, whatever that thing is that is a major disruptor, having those procedures or the ability for the leader of that organization to just know their people. And as it's been said in this discussion, some people react to praise and others react to having an open field to run and want to be more left alone, so they can achieve. A good leader recognizes that and puts the things in place so that people can perform at their best, whatever that best is. And when you try to build a system that puts everybody through in the same type of way, the Army is very cognizant that that's where you get system failures, because everybody's different and everybody responds a different way. So I would just suggest more of a long-term approach. And so I don't have an answer. I mean, Bunker Labs, we help people start businesses, but there is no specific path that a business I see that should be on that's correct for everybody. I think it's your own, and you need to develop and it's going to change because the people within your organization will change. And so how do you get the maximum efficiency and work out of your force? So more of a flexible, long-term solutions of building that team, I would suggest.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, even within, and you kind of said this too, within our organization, my team might need something different than somebody else's team. I will say just one other thing, webcams are a huge deal for us. And we, being able to see each other and react. And I have, along with just monthly meetings and individual one-on-ones, we have a daily or a huddle that we started right after the pandemic, and we were doing them 5 days a week. That became kind of too much as it went on, we were, finding ourselves canceling them, but we still have stuck to Tuesday and Thursday it's scheduled for 15 minutes and it always goes 30 and sometimes 45. And it's at the end of the day, so it doesn't impact anybody's schedules. And we know to expect that to happen, but it is a lot. We talk about things that need to be talked about for business perspective, but reminders and things, but a lot of it is just social interaction. We laugh a lot. We recognize birthdays. We change our backgrounds for that particular situation for that person. So just, again, you can't underestimate the value of the WebEx. Some people were apprehensive at first, but they've become open to it, and they actually embrace it a lot more now. Makes a huge difference.
I'll throw a question out there too is, we have people who are also just employees on here and who want to make a difference, and maybe they're not really being asked, how they can contribute. What about advice from, I always say the ground can move the mountain too. So
Absolutely.
Any advice as an employee on how to change if you're not in a leadership role or impact an organization?
Yeah. Speaking from my team, they've just gotten involved in other things. Partially, I think just, again, to sort of break up some of the monotony, but also to grow themselves. Now, and these are I was just thinking about this a little bit ago. This was a unique one, and I think Matt actually attended too. Yeah. One of the folks on my team, we have a culture champion committee in our office too, but she hosted a charcuterie class on Friday night, February 12th. And we had a lot of participation. Way more than I was expecting. And it was really fun. She had gone and gotten all, done. I don't think she had any background in this at all, but she learned it and then explained it and put it all together. It was really fun. So again, just out of the box things, she volunteered to do it. So, kind of got herself out there. So we looked to her. She also hosted our holiday event and is just done an amazing job. So, but yeah, I think, not being afraid to share your ideas. And if you're like, why are we doing this? This would be so much easier. Kind of back to one of my earlier points, like if the leaders aren't soliciting feedback, then, don't wait for it. If you have an idea, feel comfortable to share it, I would hope. And again, I can say that I'm open to any ideas. And I hope most leaders are at this point in the game, because I don't think anybody has all the answers. So I wouldn't hold back if you feel like something's, being missed or needs to be reevaluated or thought through. And maybe it is something like, people are frustrated because their PTO is, they've hit their maxes and it's disappearing, but no one really has thought, maybe nobody thought about it, I don't see the PTO balances of my team. So unless they bring it up, I wouldn't know that. I could look, but I don't look at it every day. So those sort of things, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring it up. It may be being overlooked with all the other challenges and distractions happening right now.
I think that's great advice. Hey, Scott, do you want to stop sharing your screen? And then if people want to turn their cameras on, we can see their lovely faces. Other ideas from people. This is one of the best things that we see on these calls is people sharing ideas of what's working for them, or asking advice, because we're all in this together. We've heard that over and over, but other ideas or thoughts of what has worked for you and your team. Matt Nutzman said he loves the happy hours.
Well, I was just responding to Susan's comment about the happy hours. Susan, are you just doing virtual type things, or what do you actually do for your happy hours to make it fun and interesting?
No, I just have 2 people here with me, and so we can social distance. And again, in normal times, we kind of did it every once in a while, but we had a few more than usual last year, and this year continuing. And a few people from the neighborhood would stop in because, like I said, we're lucky we have some space. I'm with the art gallery, so anyway, I feel like that has helped.
It also brings like the personal touch. I think, I would say, obviously some of my team is on the call. And I think when we talk about normal life, just like Scott, you said, that water cooler talk, right? It's important to do just those check-ins with people that are non-work related. It actually helps me feel more connected to them. And they know that we've texted and caught up on the backside of things. Just makes everybody feel human again. I feel like a little bit of this get up, go in your office, home office, shut your door kind of gets to be robotic. So any of that human touch, I think, is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's all interconnected, even though we try to leave work at work and home at home, especially this past year, it's clear that that's not always so easy. So I just want to make sure we're all talking about everything as much as we want to.
I know Bobby is on. Bobby, have you guys are all over the state, and you've had some good classes too. Anything that you guys have heard or seen that's really working out there? Sorry to put you on the spot, Bobby.
No, thank you. Hey, thank you for asking. I've enjoyed listening. Just really being, really truly asking people how they are at the beginning of a meeting, and being authentic and vulnerable. And if you've had a rough day, or you had one last week, as a leader, just say it. And I think that we've been hearing that a lot. Just it being very intentional about connecting as a human being, not just a human doing, has been something that we've been hearing a lot about. And just being cognizant of the mental health of the people on your team, and try not to stigmatize it. We're all dealing with stuff, and we have been encouraging people to just really truly be more open and vulnerable about it, if you're comfortable with it. Not everybody is.
I think that's true. I know our team, one thing that we've done is we have started, we always let each other know when we're out of the office, but we'll tag it for what we're out of the office for. It makes it a little more real or raw as to what's happening. So I appreciate that. I know my team's on the phone so that they know what's really happening. It's not just you're out on PTO or vacation. There's some other things that are going on in all of our lives, and tagging that on there it makes you really stop and think, do you really need to send them that text, or do they really need that break?
Well, and I'll jump in again, Christina. I think one of the things that has happened is that kids, pets, partners show up in our meetings. And in the beginning, I think there was a little bit of judging going on about that not being professional. I mean, I was guilty of that, but now I think people understand that, hey, pull that kid up into your lap. Let that kid be part of your thing. Laugh at the person who walks behind you in their boxers, and, pet the cat, something like that. And just because I think we are getting to know our professional connections in a more personal way. And if we ignore that, it's crazy. I mean, we are getting to see people's bedrooms and living rooms and partners and what goes on in their household if they are working from home. If they're working from their office, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I have a coworker that has a cat that's on her desk every meeting. She's going to have to bring him to work when we go back. he's like part of the team now. I love it.
I know when my son was home, he just finally went back to school. So I'll throw that out there. But I like our team. One of our members, her son was usually on the call, but I would say the same thing. I would start every meeting of, my son is at home doing school. There's a high chance he's going to walk in here because he gets lonely out there. And they would see him pop up and he's just curious, what's going on or checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? We've got about 10 minutes left. If anybody has any other thoughts or ways to help employees, things that have worked well for you and your team, we'd love to hear them. If not, we will go ahead and wrap up today. I love the energy here. Thank you all for being here. And I really, just as Scott said, nobody expected this to go on as long as it has. So thank you all for being here and wanting to do better for your team. I think that shows that you're really invested in making things as easy as possible and trying to make the right decisions. Again, it's hard when it's a moving target, but I just want to wrap up and say thank you, Scott. Thank you for being here. Your presentations are always so helpful to all of us. So I really appreciate you taking the time and donating your time to be here and educate us as we go along. So thank you all for your feedback. We will be back at the end of March again with our top 5. So hopefully you can join us then. But until then, take care. And again, Employee Appreciation Day. I wrote that down March 5th. It's an easy win for you. It's a week away, so you can make plans.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone.